During a game of truth or dare, my fiancée's longtime crush surprisingly asked her in front of me, if there were no George, could we ever get back together? As someone tried to play it off as a joke, Willow responded calmly, we could. Everyone present was shocked and turned to look at me, expecting me to flip the table in anger, but to their surprise, I just smiled and said, well, since we're not even married yet, I'll be generous and let you two have a chance. Chapter 1. A week ago, Makoto returned to the country, and his fiancée, Willow, personally welcomed him back, but that day, my dad was diagnosed with coronary heart disease and needed a bypass surgery. I lost control and yelled at her over the phone, accusing her of not understanding the urgency of things. She, in turn, blamed me for making a big deal out of it, her voice dripping with disappointment and reproach, with no attempt to hide it. After hanging up, she blocked me. At that moment, I felt like I didn't know her anymore. It was the first time Willow and I had fallen into a cold war. In the past, whenever we fought, I would immediately apologize, terrified of upsetting her. But this time, when I discovered I was blocked, I felt surprisingly calm. It wasn't until 3 days later, when my mom called, saying Willow had cried, that I understood. I knew. She was extending an olive branch. It's always like this, Willow never admits her wrongs, yet always finds ways to make me break the deadlock first. She'd suggest we go for barbecue, or hot pot, or even cry in front of my parents to soften me up. Once I lowered my guard, she would smugly ask, do you know what you did wrong? Later that night, like a lazy little kitten, she would flirt. In the end, I would always surrender. That was the pattern from the moment I started pursuing her. I would offer her peaches, but I couldn't expect her to offer me plums in return. Being with her, I got used to suppressing myself, constantly trying to please her, humbly and cautiously guessing her thoughts, as if I couldn't breathe without her. But yesterday, she boldly said, your mom didn't blame me, so stop acting all high and mighty. Those words hit me with an unfamiliar sense of imbalance. Willow didn't understand. She didn't know how much pain and breakdown I felt outside that operating room that day. I may be a man, but I'm also a son. I wished so much that she could be there beside me, to let me lean on her, but instead, all I got was her accusations and indifference. Then she texted, hubby, do you remember what tomorrow is? Our engagement anniversary. Of course, I remembered. Every time, I would go to great lengths to prepare, but Willow would always say it wasn't romantic enough. I only knew how to book the best hotel, buy cosmetics, jewelry, and bags. A boring, unimaginative way of gifting that could never compare to the timely blessings Makoto received from his friends. Willow thought I had forgotten when I didn't reply. She reproached me, it's our anniversary, you know. Well, since you always get me gifts, today I'll make it up to you. I have a present for you, so you can look forward to it. I replied with one word, okay. After putting down my phone, I went back to reading the lawyer's letter. If it had been before, I would have been overjoyed. But this time, I felt nothing. After work, Willow reminded me to buy red wine and candles. Wait for me obediently. She texted me at 6, but by midnight, she still hadn't come back. During that time, I tried calling several times, worried something had happened, but no one answered. Finally, I couldn't resist checking her WeChat to ask her best friend about it, but I found a post in Makoto's WeChat Moments, a lifetime's confidant, visible only to me. The picture was of a watch, the watch I had wanted for so long. In that moment, I felt something deep inside break, then slowly, bit by bit, rebuild and heal. In the end, it was all calm. At that instant, I suddenly felt at peace. In her heart, Makoto would always be more important than me. But strangely, I didn't care as much anymore. Chapter 2. In the middle of the night, I heard someone open the door in my dream and slowly walk towards the bed. The familiar scent of Willow's perfume filled the air as she embraced me. But just as her red lips were about to touch mine, I instinctively turned my head away. This subconscious action made both of us freeze for a moment, and it completely ruined my sleep. Perhaps to avoid the awkwardness, Willow quickly ran into the bathroom. But she left her phone behind. The notifications kept flashing. Makoto asked, have you arrived home? Willow replied, almost. Makoto said, I can't let go of you. Willow didn't respond. Scrolling up, I saw that they had been chatting every single day. I wasn't interested in reading the details, but the constant notifications were really annoying. I grabbed the phone, tossed it in a perfect arc, and it landed precisely on the sofa. I used to be insanely jealous because of their daily chats, but whenever I complained, Willow would immediately put on a cold, distant attitude. She thought I was childish and boring, accusing me of disrespecting her as her fiancé. But as my fiancé, didn't she understand the concept of boundaries? Gradually, I lost the urge to say anything more. A few minutes later, Willow came out after changing. When she saw her phone on the sofa, she paused for a moment. She asked, did you touch my phone? I yawned and said, "What time is it?" Willow grabbed a bottle of red wine from the nightstand, took a sip, and said, "There's nothing between us." I nodded and went to sleep. Afterward, I couldn't hear her explain any further. Finally, after a long sigh, the world became quiet. I wouldn't rage anymore. I wouldn't emphasize the principles and boundaries of our relationship, because it was pointless. Willow still quietly erased everything I cared about, even crossing the line. To her, my breakdown was just a joke. I had waited too long, given too much, but it was all in vain, and I was drained. So, I chose to walk away. The next morning, when I got up, I realized Willow had gone to the guest bedroom sometime during the night. When she saw me coming out, she pointed at the suit beside her and said, "George, this is for you." I picked it up, glanced at it, and couldn't help but laugh. The color and style aside, the size is wrong too. Why would you give me something meant for Makoto? I was about to open the door while holding the coat. Willow stopped me. She said, "It's not what you think. He broke up with someone, got drunk at a bar. After I took him to the hotel, he vomited all over." I interrupted her. "Is that so? So the clothes got dirty, and you bought him a suit to comfort him, and then gave him the watch. And then, after he sobered up and had the energy to post disgusting things about me on social media, you came home." She furrowed her brows. "George, do you really have to put it that way?" There was a flash of hurt in her eyes. I asked, "Then what do you expect me to say?" I looked at Willow with a teasing expression. She was speechless. Beneath that innocent look, it was as if everything wrong was my fault. Chapter 3. Willow was really angry this time. We were under the same roof, but living in separate rooms. The only thing connecting us was a cat, the one we adopted together, named Happy. I had awkwardly confessed to her back then, saying, "Let's take care of it together." Her eyes softened, a smile at the corner of her lips, and she agreed to my proposal. From then on, I fed it, and she scooped its litter. But lately, Willow had been coming home very late, so I decided to keep Happy in my room. The little guy looked forlorn. At times like this, it was used to messing around in front of Willow's laptop. It couldn't speak, but I could understand its unspeakable sense of grievance. Unexpectedly, I received a message from Makoto. He said, "I can return the watch to you. Why be so petty, man?" I ignored it. I have a clean obsession, and I don't like anyone touching my things. Makoto sent another message. He said, "That day was when I was at my lowest, mocked by everyone for my failed marriage. Don't blame Willow." I stayed silent for a while, then decided to respond harshly. I asked, "So, have all your friends and family passed away, and now you're targeting my fiancée?" A moment later, Willow burst into the guest room and scolded me. "Are you crazy? What's with the way you're talking to Makoto? We're breaking up." The last time Willow said she wanted to break up was when I accidentally broke the crystal glass that Makoto gave her. After she yelled at me, I couldn't help but try to soothe her. I said, "I'll buy you an identical one to replace it." But she got furious and yelled, "Do you even know what it means to me?" Then she sent the word breakup. I frantically pleaded with her on the phone, wrote a lot of words to sincerely apologize and beg her to forgive me. She stayed silent for a long time, then sent a voice message, mocking me. "What's all this writing? Boys always like to write essays to accuse people. Just asking for a slap. Fine. You'll buy me a handbag as punishment." I froze, stunned for 2 seconds, then said, "Got it." The moment I hung up the phone, it felt like a truckload of cement poured into my heart, and then it quickly solidified. When it came to Makoto, Willow was always sensitive. It was like an untouchable taboo. But so what? I didn't care anymore. I kept asking myself, what am I even doing? Why force myself to meet a standard that could never be achieved? So, even when Willow posted photos on Weibo to provoke me, I felt like the sky was clear and the sun was shining. He helped her fix her computer, took her parking spot, even bought the same pair of shoes on Taobao. She brought him lunch, fetched his packages, fixed the mistakes in his documents. Even during the days when Willow was traveling to various first-tier cities for a company project, we didn't contact each other for 4 or 5 days. They still chatted every day, sent each other songs, joked around. I could feel it. Even if my feelings for Willow were still deep, they were slowly being drained by her indifference. Then, someone couldn't stand it anymore. Our mutual friend Anna organized a gathering. I, who was never late, arrived half an hour late. Makoto gave me a displeased look and said, "George," acting all high and mighty. I glanced at him, even though he himself had been late countless times. But if I asked, Willow would always put on a stern face and explain, "Makoto is adjusting to the time difference. It's normal." I smiled and said, "Fine, this meal is on me." We split into 2 tables. We were in perfect sync. Anna and I sat together. Willow and Makoto sat across from us. I ordered beef brisket hot pot for the table. Makoto loved it. Willow added, no cilantro. I remembered the first time the three of us had a meal together. Because Willow was fond of cilantro, I had added a lot. She slightly furrowed her brows and gave me a glare. She only told the waiter to bring a new soup base. Makoto laughed smugly and said, "George, look how considerate Willow is. When you like someone, you remember everything about them, even their food preferences." Under Makoto's provocative gaze, I clenched my fists. Although Willow said, "Innocence is no crime," I never ate Chaozhou hot pot again after that. Anna laughed and said, "Don't you guys all hate cilantro?" Willow looked at me in surprise. I think at that moment, she realized why I only ever ordered the Inyang hot pot when we were together. She could leave out cilantro for Makoto. But I, just to make her happy, would only eat the spicy broth. Willow is never as considerate as you say. It's just that the recipient is you. I had been holding this in for so long. I didn't understand why Makoto's actions and words always felt like he was stabbing me right in the heart. And yet, he still looked so innocent. Just like this time, after the meal, Anna asked us to go home together. But Makoto insisted on playing truth or dare. When the bottle stopped on him, he asked vindicatively, "Willow, if you weren't engaged right now, could we get back together?" The way he declared his ownership was disgusting. Everyone was stunned. It was so quiet, you could hear a pin drop. And yet, the one being asked nodded slowly and said, "Yes." Anna, fearing I might lose my temper, instinctively grabbed the hem of my shirt, but I just chuckled and said, "Fine. Since we're not even married yet, I'll be generous and let you two be together." Chapter 4. The gathering ended on a sour note. It wasn't my fault. It was the two men at the other table who stood up angrily. One of them pointed at Makoto and yelled, "Under the guise of friendship, you're doing things that should only be done between lovers. You two are obviously on the same page." Willow's face hadn't even gone completely pale. Makoto hadn't even had a chance to defend himself. The other men followed suit, standing up and saying, "Don't invite me to these kinds of gatherings again. Don't talk to me about soulmates. This is just emotional cheating." I smiled but didn't say anything. I had said the exact same thing several times before. Every time Makoto stayed quiet, Willow would jump in and defend him. It had always hurt me deeply. Now, it wasn't that the pain was gone. It was that the many wounds in my heart had already scabbed over. This time, Anna's well-intentioned gathering was in vain. I took the subway to the left. They drove to the right. Neither of us looked back. I was the one most detached from everything. A wave of melancholy swept over my heart. It felt like something I didn't want to part with. Locked away in a chest. It existed, never really good, but it was gone and would never return. I arrived at my stop, slowly heading home. The chilly breeze made the leaves fall from the branches. The trajectory was natural and decisive, a premonition of a breakup. Willow. It seemed like it was time to let go of her. I was trying to figure out how to say it, but the moment I opened the door, I found her quietly sitting inside. Willow, rarely taking the initiative, spoke first. "You've seemed in a good mood these past few days while I was away." I replied, "Yeah, you're busy. I'm busy too." She seemed to be looking for something to argue about, but I didn't want to engage. She said, "Makoto insisted on coming." I was confused at first, then immediately understood she was explaining. In the past, when she was with Makoto, I would feel anxious, but now I didn't care. However, it was pretty ridiculous. I said, "Of course, he's a close friend." I said this half-heartedly, wanting to end the conversation, but she still hesitated. If this had been before, I would have been agitated and insisted on getting a clear answer, but now, I was indifferent. Finally, Willow gathered her courage and said, "There's something I need to discuss with you. Go ahead." I tried to make myself appear less impatient. She bit her lip and said, "Makoto is my best friend. After he came back to the country, he applied for a job, but staying in hotels all the time isn't convenient." I immediately understood. She wanted Makoto to move in. Just as I was thinking about how to refuse, Makoto was already at the door, knocking with a bunch of bags in his hands. I felt my blood pressure rise. She was asking for my opinion on something I had already decided. I turned to enter the room, not wanting to make this more awkward. As long as my personal space wasn't violated, I didn't want things to get uncomfortable right before the breakup. But Willow stopped me and said, "Makoto's allergic to cat fur." I looked up at her, not understanding what she meant. Willow hesitated for a moment, then immediately spoke with an undeniable tone. "You take Happy and have it stay somewhere else for a few days." The atmosphere immediately froze into dead silence. Chapter 5. I laughed out loud. Turns out, the saying, anger turning into laughter, is real. Makoto said, "George, don't misunderstand." Makoto was already unpacking his suitcase, and he said, "I know I've been disturbing you and Willow these days, and it's my fault. Once I find a job, I'll disappear." His audacity made me want to slap him. "Get out." My roar left both him and Willow stunned. Willow was the first to speak up. George, I've already made a compromise. She saw my dark expression and still lowered her tone. Just a few days after that, we'll figure it out. I didn't mince words and shattered her illusion. This is our future home. I think I have the right to veto, don't I? Willow stayed silent for a long time. Finally, with a cold look, she glared at me and said, "Fine, there's more than one house. Just don't get jealous later." She grabbed Makoto's hand and left. I watched their backs as they walked away. But I was mentally trying to recall the last time I was jealous. It wasn't until I heard the door slam that I remembered. Last time, I was the one who slammed it. They had gone to KTV to sing, two of them serenading each other, exchanging glances. I caught them in the act and almost lost it. After the fight, Willow ignored me, and Makoto's barely noticeable smile only added fuel to my frustration. Now that they had stormed off, for me, it was a relief. It was the closure of the tangled emotions of the past, an honest confession to my own heart. I typed, "Let's end things amicably," into the chat box. A red exclamation mark. Had I blocked her before? Or had I unblocked her and then blocked her again? I was about to call her when Willow's father called. I expected him to yell at me, but instead, he hurriedly told me that Willow's mother had been to the hospital for a checkup, and her tumor had grown too large. By the time I arrived at the hospital, Willow was already crying uncontrollably. When she saw me, she rushed over and hugged me. I stiffened for a moment and said expressionlessly, "It's nothing. Calm down." The surgery turned out better than expected, but during the process, Makoto was a bit of a buzzkill, sending multiple messages. First, he complained about how hard it was to find a job. Then he invited Willow to dinner. And finally, when he found out her mother's tumor was benign, he suggested hiring a caregiver. Willow screamed into the phone, "My mom was in surgery. Do you know how I was shaking when I signed the consent form?" I stared at her in surprise. This was an attitude I had never seen from Willow towards Makoto. She said, "Do you know I cried the whole time outside the operating room?" When she looked up and saw me standing not far away, it seemed like she understood something. She said, "George, I think I know I was wrong." Wrong. I'd been waiting for that word for so long, but the apology I had once hoped for had long since faded into the background of constant repression. I still held on to a little hope, hoping that Willow would realize her mistakes and we would reconcile. But during the week I took off to stay with Willow's mom, I managed to find time to get rid of a wisdom tooth that had been bothering me for 9 years. Half an hour later, after pliers, hammers, and grinding, I felt a kind of rebirth. It had been growing wildly in my mouth. I had endured it, endured the pain, endured it pressing against my other healthy teeth. Finally, I made the decision to get rid of it. I had had enough of its unpredictable pain, whether Willow knew she was wrong or not. I just felt I was done with her. It was pointless. Chapter 6. Willow's mother was discharged a week later. At my insistence, she stayed at our future home for a few days, watching me busying around. Mrs. Liu choked up a little and said, "George, I feel at ease knowing Willow married you." A trace of melancholy tugged at my heart, but I quickly masked it, saying, "I'll go stay somewhere else for a few days. The cat's fur might not be good for your health." She smiled and replied, "What does it matter? I don't mind. You can't treat your precious little thing differently just because I'm here." Willow opened her mouth several times but stayed silent in the end. Her head bowed. When I went back to pack, Willow insisted on following me. I ignored her, packing my clothes, then putting Happy into the cage, and headed for the door. Willow stared at me, holding on to her pride. She said, "Can't you not do this?" I instinctively tried to push her away. She blocked the door, as if demanding an answer from me. I used all my strength to move her, but she was relentless. In the struggle, she seemed utterly aggrieved, suddenly rushing at me, pounding me in a frenzy. When I grabbed her hands and tried to calm her down, I froze. There was a silver ring on her ring finger. Rings. I had given her many: gold, diamonds, jade, but silver. I never bought her silver. I thought it wasn't fancy enough. I remembered telling Willow that only my ring could go on her ring finger. It suddenly struck me as absurd, and I regained my composure, saying, "Move." Willow seemed to realize something and quickly pulled her hand back, her voice trembling in fear. She said, "Makoto said the hospital had heavy energy, so I brought a charm." I pulled out my phone. I shoved the screen in her face, because I knew this was another of Makoto's little jokes, his continuous attempts to undermine me, making me choke on my anger without being able to express it. Time and time again, he took pleasure in it. Sure enough, on his WeChat moments, Makoto's ring finger was wearing the same silver ring as Willow's. Willow fell silent. After a long pause, she finally said, "A silver ring doesn't mean anything." I didn't want to drag this on a second longer. I pushed her aside and left calmly. Willow and I fell back into our usual routine, avoiding each other. During this time, I focused entirely on work. Diligently, I earned a promotion to partner. Then, My birthday came around, a double blessing. I proposed a private celebration. After picking a venue, my phone vibrated. I didn't realize when Willow added me back, but she messaged, "My mom went home this morning. Thank you for the gift you prepared." I thought for a moment before replying. It was nothing. I've been too busy, so I didn't get the chance to deliver it in person. Apologies on my behalf to your husband and wife. After a while, she called. "It's your birthday. I bought a few of your favorite dishes. Could you bring Happy back with you?" I replied, "No need. My colleagues are celebrating with me." She asked cautiously, "Can I come too?" I responded firmly, "It's inconvenient. We're not bringing family members." Every time she had a gathering, I felt like a dog, wanting to stick around her. After a few attempts, Willow frowned and told me, "If you're not invited, don't come, because girls need their private conversations." I asked, "Then why can Makoto come?" Willow sneered, "He's a close male friend. Is he someone you can compare to?" This time, at the dinner, I discovered something new. By the time we had drunk enough, everyone was having a blast. One of my colleagues patted my shoulder and said, "George, do you know what we say behind your back? We think you're great, but you're too distant, like you're not part of the human world." I was puzzled. A girl sitting beside me explained. She said that every day after work, I'd go home, and I never joined any of the group dinners, though if anyone needed help with work, I would do everything I could, but they thought I was too aloof, not part of the group. They hadn't realized I was actually quite approachable. I laughed. In the past, I'd worried about Willow being alone at home, feeling too lonely. Now, why bother being sentimental? She had her girlfriends, and I could have my brothers. After the dinner, they took me to a large bathhouse. We showered, had a massage, and sang karaoke. Willow called me several times, but I had already set her to do not disturb. I had once offered to pick her up because I was worried about her walking home alone at night, but she just laughed on the phone, saying, "I've got a group of friends looking out for me. Why are you overreacting?" Around 11 p.m., she said she was waiting for me in the lobby of the hot spring. My colleague sent her my location. Willow asked, "You didn't drink too much, right?" She saw my flushed face and came over to help me. "It's nothing. I didn't drink much," I said. She insisted on driving me instead of letting me take the subway. On the way, she said quietly, "So this is what it's like to wait for someone." I snorted, pretending I hadn't heard. When we arrived at my rental apartment complex, she hesitantly asked, "Can I come up with you?" I frowned, half-jokingly slurring, "No, it's small. It's just me and Happy. When I'm not around, you can ask Makoto if he found a job. Maybe he can stay a few days." Chapter 7. Willow was awkward, but this time, she didn't get angry. Her eyes seemed to flicker a little, and she said, "You've drunk too much." I sneered. Alcohol makes people speak the truth. But from that moment on, she changed. I never imagined that, even as a simp, I'd have a day of retaliation. After my lease expired, I had to go back. She inexplicably started showing concern for me. She cooked for me, waited for me to come home, even postponed her weekend girl gatherings. But I felt increasingly uncomfortable. I told her, "There's no need to do all this." I got promoted, and now my working hours were unpredictable. I had to work overtime even on weekends. But she said, "It's fine. Just send me a message." She even started researching how to make health tonic soups. When she put the fish maw chicken soup in front of me, I was surprised to find that it tasted just as good as what you'd get in a restaurant. What about the time before, when she nearly blew up the kitchen? Was she too distracted by her long-distance calls with Makoto to care about me, or did she just not care at all? I had to admit, Willow put in the effort, but for some reason, I couldn't taste the happiness in it. It wasn't just my sense of taste. All 5 of my senses seemed to be out of whack. I used to love being tangled up with her night after night. I used to worry endlessly for her. I used to carefully try to win her favor. But now, looking at her face, it suddenly felt so unfamiliar. Even when she deliberately dressed in a very sexy way, I strangely had no physical reaction. Every movement of hers, I suddenly felt disgusted. It was the kind of disgust that made me want to puke. It turns out that sometimes, when you stop loving someone, you don't realize it, but your body knows. A tear fell from the corner of Willow's eye. I didn't feel heartbroken. She wanted to sleep beside me, and I didn't refuse. I just chose to get up and go to the study to work. Late at night, Makoto called me. The phone rang once and then hung up. I suddenly felt relieved. I couldn't stay another second. At 4 a.m., I fell asleep on the couch. In the room, Willow sobbed. I immediately got dressed, opened my phone, and searched for hotel information. Even though there were no single rooms, I paid $500 for a double. When I closed the door behind me, I suddenly felt like a weight had been lifted. The stars seemed so bright. It turns out that slamming the door with a loud bang didn't mean I wanted to leave. It was calmly closing the door that meant I didn't want to come back. In the next few days, Willow acted like nothing had happened. She showered me with more warmth and care. She asked about my work, about trivial matters, even some topics she used to avoid, like tennis, models, and the movie reviews I wrote. Her sudden change made it harder for me to deal with her. I started working overtime, sometimes even staying overnight at the law firm, but I really wanted to tell Willow. There's no need for all this. I really want to leave you. No one leaves you out of a sudden impulse. The painful emotions that I endured and kept inside, you never saw them. It's like a crack in a dam, slowly widening due to erosion. All you saw was the moment it finally collapsed. In the following month, I deliberately avoided Willow. She came looking for me many times. She waited for me outside the office, her voice low, her attitude sincere. Even though I distanced myself, even though I gently told her that we needed some space, even though we both knew that our relationship couldn't be salvaged, and I couldn't win her back, she still refused to face the consequences that, deep down, she must have known from the start. Willow refused to accept that I no longer loved her, no matter what. Whenever she had the chance, she would wait for me. That day, I took on a lot of work on purpose. A colleague brought me some spicy hot pot. She looked out the window and said, "The rain's coming down hard. Your fiancé's downstairs waiting for you." She said she's too scared to come up. I frowned and grabbed an umbrella before rushing out. The rain was heavy. Willow stood in the rain, like a wilting flower, soaked through. I pulled her into the building. I asked, "Are you crazy?" Under the surprised gaze of the security guard, I grabbed a towel and wiped her face. Willow looked at me with joy and said, "George, you still care about me." I paused when I saw the excitement in her eyes. I said, "Let's wait until the rain eases up, then you can go home." Willow froze, trembling as she said, "Makoto's matter was my mistake. I really didn't." Hearing his name, I felt a surge of humiliation. I threw the towel at her and said, "I don't want to hear your explanation. If you want to torment yourself, go ahead." She didn't expect me to be so cruel, and her face darkened. She said, "What do I have to do for you to forgive me? We're already engaged. This small matter, is it really that serious?" I looked at her in disbelief. A small matter? At this point, she still thought it was a small thing, still thought I was being petty. Willow realized what she had said and quickly apologized. She said, "I'm sorry, I just don't get it. Why did everything blow up when there's nothing between me and him?" After saying that, a confused look passed over her face. Maybe she really didn't understand, even though she had lowered herself, why I was so determined to distance myself from her. But had she really never thought about it? Don't I have female friends? Don't I have brothers inviting me to eat, drink, and have fun? Don't I have moments of collapse when I just want to be spoiled? I do, but when I go out, it's always with 3 people. I don't hang out with girls. I won't forget the significance of family for the sake of a gathering. When a colleague's computer breaks down, I don't rush over to fix it because I have a fiancé at home. But what have I gotten? Willow's repeated criticism. I've waited for someone in the rain too. I've gotten a cold. My gums swollen to the point where I couldn't close my mouth. In the hospital corridor, everyone had someone with them. I called Willow, hoping she would come to keep me company, but she snapped. "I told you not to overthink. I told you to give us some space. I told you to get your tooth pulled out earlier. Now it's infected. Serves you right." I really wanted her to soften up, like it was charity. But then I heard Makoto's voice. "Willow, why aren't you moving? You've ruined me." I couldn't hold onto my phone, and it fell, shattering the screen. I was sick, and she only cared about being someone's backup. Later, even though I recovered, the scar never faded. Now, every arrow Willow shoots at me bounces back at her. Chapter 8. Since she called me cruel. I sent her a photo of the watch Makoto gave me for our 3rd engagement anniversary, a photo only visible to me. I asked, "What does this mean? Even if you both explain this face to face later, why would Makoto post this image after getting drunk, specifically targeting me?" Finally, I spoke slowly, word by word. "Willow, you've put so much effort into pleasing me, but do you know what I hate the most? I hate drinking soup. I think it's time we have a proper talk, so we can part ways peacefully." She was silent for a long time, disappearing into the rain. I made up my mind to go home and speak honestly with her. It would be better for both of us to make a decision early. I believed Willow was waiting for me at home, but when I opened the door, the house was empty. The next afternoon, I received a call from Makoto. He said Willow had drunk until she vomited blood. She was in the hospital for emergency treatment. I rushed over immediately. She was lying in bed, barely breathing, in a condition I had never seen her in, completely disheveled. She said, "George, why did you come? I'm sorry for making you worry." There was an unfamiliar humility in Willow's words. "You bastard." Makoto's voice came from behind me. He punched me. He said, "How could you do this to Willow? Do you know she was soaking wet and cried while drinking 3 bottles of red wine yesterday?" I stood up, and the next second, I glared at him, kicking him to the ground. Ignoring Makoto, I turned to Willow and said, "You'd rather destroy yourself than face me and talk. Why avoid it?" She asked, "Can you wait until I'm better?" Her eyes, full of pleading, were heartbreaking. "Fine." I stood up, preparing to leave. She asked, "George, can you stay with me?" Willow's voice was filled with sorrow. Stay? It was laughable. But just as I stood up, Makoto's gaze was like a knife, wanting to kill me. Makoto gritted his teeth and said, "You wouldn't die without him. Why bring a man like that here?" Makoto ordered me to leave. I was stunned for a moment, then I smiled and said, "See, I've always been unnecessary." Willow recovered but didn't go home. She sent me a message, saying the doctor had advised her not to be stimulated. Makoto's punch had been hard. While I was using an egg to cool my face, I realized it had gotten cold at some point. Like the love between Willow and me, was I making a mountain out of a molehill? In the third year of university, during one evening study break, the class was noisy. After finishing a design sketch for Willow, I couldn't help but poke her back and ask, "Do you want to be in a relationship?" She looked at me in confusion. I spoke quickly and quietly, "I'm serious. I want to be in a relationship with you." I still can't forget the look on her face in that moment, surprised, shy, yet sweet. I also can't forget after graduation, when I traveled across mountains and rivers to get to her city, and she cried on my shoulder, or the New Year's Eve, after finishing my graduate exams. I secretly went to her place. In the moment we were setting off fireworks, I suddenly ran out, holding the cat she had longed for in my arms. Then, in a very serious tone, I asked her, "Once my work stabilizes, will you marry me?" We went house hunting together, and when the agent asked her what kind of layout she liked, she said, "Don't ask me, my husband will decide." She had always been so good to me, as long as Makoto wasn't around. My mom said, "She didn't cheat. After so many years together, you two rarely even fought. But now, because she talked to another guy and had a few meals with him, you're going to break up? Can you really let go?" I just didn't understand. Everything was moving forward smoothly and happily. As long as we kept moving forward, everything would be fine. But why did she have this obsession with Makoto? She had looked at me so seriously back then. In that noisy classroom, we stared at each other for a while, and then, by some twist of fate, she nodded. I smiled in relief, turning my pen in my hand, arrogantly lifting my chin, and said to her, "Next time, don't be embarrassed to ask me for help with the questions. You can just ask your boyfriend." How I wish I could go back to that moment. Willow also sent a message, saying she could see the light in my eyes was gone. She had once been full of light, but for a brief moment, it suddenly dimmed, and she became just a speck of dust in the universe. I tried to remember what she looked like when she was full of light, but I couldn't recall it. Later, I realized that was the first time I had seen her, and the light I saw in my eyes. I choked up as I replied, "You can't let go of the person in your heart, but I also don't want to be your substitute." I had always been calm, never shedding a tear in front of her, never showing any weak or reluctant emotions. I always thought I had handled my emotions and the breakup process very well and rationally, but when I smoked all night, I realized how much it hurt me that Willow's heart drifted away the moment she abandoned me. From disappointment, to arguing, to distancing, to giving up, it ultimately led to a breakup. Some roads, once walked, cannot be turned back. Even if I still love her, I know we can't be together. Love only lasts for so long, and it can't withstand too much wear and tear. Chapter 9. It was time for my dad's regular checkup every month, but Willow still wouldn't face me. After the checkup, my mom asked, "You and Willow are both getting older. It's time to get married." I thought for a moment and answered honestly, "Mom, maybe Willow and I are just not meant to be." After a slight pause, my mom sighed and said, "I just want you to be happy, to be taken care of, and not to lose yourself." Tears filled my eyes. I took a few days off to spend time with them. When it was time to say goodbye, I posted a photo with them on social media. Willow called me, "Your parents came?" I replied, "Yeah." She asked, "Why didn't you say anything earlier?" I answered, "I posted it on social media. Besides, weren't you afraid my parents would start pushing us to get married if they saw you?" My parents really liked Willow. From the bottom of their hearts, they were very open-minded about things like dowries, housing, cars, even having kids. They just believed that marriage papers were the only thing that could bring peace of mind. But Willow said, "Getting the certificate means being trapped. If I want to pursue my own career later, my parents will keep bothering me about it." From that moment on, I kept quiet. Now, I firmly told her, "You stay in the house and wait for me. Don't drag it out." Just as I opened the door, Willow suddenly took out the household registration book and said, "George, let's go get the marriage certificate." I froze for a moment. She continued, "I've thought it over. I can lose everything, but I can't lose you." Her action caught me completely off guard, but after the shock, I only felt exhausted. All this time, I had been the only one giving. while Willow took it all for granted. Slowly, I was worn out, just like when I had proposed to Willow with the household registration book during my father's illness. She had said I was just trying to find comfort. At that point, I should have already given up hope. I was just waiting for the final straw that would break me. She asked, "George, would you be willing?" Willow asked, her voice lacking any conviction. I said, "No, I wouldn't." When I spoke those 3 words, it hurt in my chest, but I felt no regret, just like how Willow was disappointed, but not heartbroken enough to lose control. She leaned on the couch, struggling to ask, "When did you stop liking me?" I didn't answer. She asked again, "Was it the day I gave the watch to Makoto?" I still didn't speak. Finally, she asked, "Or is it because you think I've never cared about you, not even knowing you don't like eating cilantro?" I sighed. I said, "Willow, you know all the reasons. I understand what Makoto means to you. Love unfulfilled, and you need time to let go. But you can't just ignore me every time he shows up. You've indulged and even permitted your feelings for him. Love is a one-way street. I'm devoted. I sacrifice. I've always been sincere. You shouldn't treat me like a dog." She choked up, "But I know I was wrong. I really only love you." Willow cried, feeling helpless. I said, "No, you don't love me." When I went out and almost got hit by a car, I just scraped my skin a little. But when I thought of you, the pain became more intense. The bitterness grew. I wanted you to see. Wanted you to be with me. Even if you scolded me, I would still be happy. But you always pushed me away coldly. Do you think men don't feel pain? You could feel all my joys, anger, sadness, and happiness, but you're just afraid Makoto will see. Are you trying to prove to him how great you are? Or do you want him to see how persistent I am with you, hoping it'll move him? Or are you preparing to keep 2 boats afloat? Willow couldn't say anything more. She just shook her head desperately, watching her speechless. I finally understood. Not loving someone has never been without warning. There's no such thing as sudden indifference. It all builds up with disappointment, little by little. Once it accumulates, you can't love them anymore. There was a knock at the door. I checked the peephole. It was Makoto. I told Willow, "You go inside and hide. You said you didn't love Makoto, so let's prove it. Does Makoto have any other intentions for you?" Makoto entered the room, looked around, and asked, "Where's Willow?" I forced a smile and said, "She's not here." He said, "She blocked me. I went to her office to find her, but she was avoiding me." Why did it suddenly turn out like this? Makoto pressed on. "Later, I saw her at her best friend's place. She told me she had a fiancé and told me to know my limits. But didn't you break up in the hospital?" For the first time, he showed signs of frustration in front of me. He said, "Willow's never been like this. She's a proud person, but after you hung up on her, she cried uncontrollably." Makoto smiled bitterly and said, "I didn't realize she really loved you that much." Suddenly, he stared at me and asked, "Are you going to marry her?" I met his gaze. The tension and probing in his eyes were clear. It was obvious he was afraid I'd reconcile with Willow. He hadn't given up. I asked, "Do you love her?" Makoto was silent for a long time. Then, he looked up and laughed in a twisted way. He said, "Yes, I realized too late. The one I love most is her." "Do you know why your proposal with the household registration book didn't work?" Willow asked me for my opinion. At that time, I had just gotten divorced. How could I possibly pass up the opportunity to destroy things? I laughed. I picked up the cat, grabbed the luggage I had already packed, and said, "You've been here long enough. Aren't you allergic to cat hair? I hope you can love Willow well. The premise is, you have to be able to catch her." As I closed the door, I heard Willow's heartbreaking voice from behind, "Get out. I never want to see you again in my life." I picked up my phone, changed Willow's contact from wife back to her full name. "If we can't live together, then let's forget each other. From now on, we part ways, each seeking happiness." Chapter 10. But I had overestimated myself. The idea of parting on good terms was just my wishful thinking. I shouldn't have forgotten that Willow is a possessive person. If she could be so obsessed with Makoto back then, it was clear she felt the same way about me now. To her, being dumped by a simp must have been a shameful defeat. Even though I had proven Makoto's ulterior motives, she still wouldn't stop texting me. After being thoroughly worn out by her, I chose to turn off my phone. I had planned to take some time to get the marriage house back. But seeing Willow's attitude, it was clear she still wanted to fight for a chance. I thought it over and decided to check into a hotel first, take a shower, and open my laptop to handle things. If Willow became too difficult, I'd just put the house up for sale. But the moment I turned my phone on, Willow's call came in. "George, I'm asking you one last time. Is there really no chance of salvaging this between us?" Without hesitation, I replied, "No." "Good. Very good. You'll regret this." At first, I didn't understand what she meant by that. I thought I had done nothing wrong, so why would I regret it? It wasn't until 3 days later, When I went back to discuss the house, that I realized what she meant. I tried to speak, but Willow acted indifferent, playing with her phone and not even looking up. I sighed and shook my head. I figured I should go into the bedroom to handle some clothes I had left behind, but as I opened the door, I was nearly speechless with shock. The bed was a mess, but worse, the trash can held a pair of soiled underwear. I took a deep breath, and then I smelled something else, an unfamiliar osmanthus flower scent. It was still lingering in the air, unmistakably the smell left over from last night's passion. In that moment, my heart stopped. Before, I had only been disappointed, thinking Willow was like a cold stone that could never be warmed up. But I never imagined one day she'd make me feel disgusted. A once fine woman had chosen to throw herself into a pit of filth. I remembered the countless calls she'd made to me the night before, all of which I had ignored. Could this be her way of getting back at me? It was utterly unfathomable. Then I recalled the first look Willow gave me when I walked in. It was full of a kind of schadenfreude. So that was it. I steadied my emotions and, with no more hesitation, asked her when she planned to move out of the marriage house. But she turned the tables on me. Did you see that, George? Feeling uncomfortable, wanting me gone. Makoto's better in bed than you. Her tone was filled with a triumphant pride that made me feel a deep, bone-chilling discomfort, but I didn't want her to see any emotion on my face. I gritted my teeth and coldly said, "Can you show yourself some dignity?" I knew that some people, especially women, when love falls apart, will act as if the world is ending. They'll use that as an excuse to spiral into self-destruction, then blame it all on the men who abandoned them. This logic was baffling, but many women do exactly that. But no matter what, falling into self-destruction is not something that should be forgiven. Self-love is the key to being loved by others. I remembered the first night Willow and I became a married couple. I had prepared carefully, as if completing a sacred ritual, watching her shyly in my arms, calling me husband for the first time. The feeling of happiness, responsibility, and ownership all overwhelmed me. It was like passing the highest exam. It was that feeling that pushed me to always take extra precautions, worried about hurting her by accident. I wasn't futile. But in this matter, I always prioritized respecting Willow. Who would have thought she'd degrade herself like this, undervaluing herself in the most foolish way? I spoke quietly. Well, congratulations, you got what you wanted. I watched as Willow adopted the same high and mighty attitude. It seemed like all her apologies and regrets over the past few months had been nothing but a joke. Chapter 11. The door lock was unlocked. Makoto entered with his luggage, and upon seeing me, his expression immediately turned smug. The arrogance in his eyes was like he was declaring his victory. I felt a surge of inexplicable frustration rising in my chest. It was so damn cheap. Makoto hesitated for a moment, then grinned lazily. He said, "Hey, ex-husband, still here? Are you staying for dinner?" With that, he pulled Willow into his arms and kissed her. The way he said ex-husband was a little too deliberate. After a while, Willow said, "He's not even worthy." I silently watched the two of them. Were they trying to claim what was mine? At this point, Makoto tossed the keychain up and caught it, saying, "Honey, when are you going to change the locks? I don't want to see that annoying person anymore." I glanced at him, only to see that he already had a key to the house. In that moment, the logic in my mind started to unravel. Willow raised an eyebrow and smiled wildly, saying, "Got it. I'll call a locksmith later. What's there to be jealous about?" They were speaking in the living room, completely in love. Every word, every look, was dripping with affection. It dawned on me, I was the fool. Perhaps before, when I thought Willow had come to her senses, I had only been deceiving myself. In reality, this was her true face, shedding the disguise she'd been wearing. It was nothing but a provocation. She was just rubbing it in my face, telling me that all the pain I'd endured these past few days was just part of their reunion game. In that moment, I clearly realized I had been made a fool of. I didn't want to waste another second with these two. I spoke. "This house was bought by my parents for our wedding." Willow let out a light laugh, saying, "Yours? So George, what do you think I am? Just a bed warmer? This house is at least half mine. Without 500,000, don't even think about kicking me out." The air went completely still. I clenched my teeth, the sound of grinding so loud in the silence. This woman was so shameless. She was even willing to destroy every last bit of the good memories we once had. Makoto spoke. "Ex-husband, you really can't be so inconsiderate, can you?" Makoto crossed his arms and walked up to me. He shamelessly patted me on the shoulder, saying, "If I were you, I'd just transfer the house to Willow. How about this? Name your price. We'll eat the loss, give you some money, and buy this house. After all, you know, Willow and I cleared up all the misunderstandings in bed last night." He glanced at Willow and smiled. "Anyway, she was my first. It's normal for her to still think about me. I'm sorry you've been playing the third wheel for 3 years." I couldn't help but throw a punch. At this point, I had to fight back. I could tolerate Willow's treatment of me, and I could accept my misguided love for her, but I could not stand being mocked and humiliated by Makoto. A man's dignity should never be compromised. Before, I had let go of my pride, my personality, and my stubbornness, all because I couldn't let go of one person. Now, I understood. The person I sacrificed everything for was never meant to be the one to spend my life with. Some things, it seemed, were wrong from the very beginning. Chapter 12. The fight was intense, or rather, brutal. I knocked a few of Makoto's teeth out, and dislocated his jaw. Willow's nose was broken, blood gushing uncontrollably. As for me, I fractured a rib. In the end, both our families had to go to the police station to pick us up. Because Makoto was seriously injured and would need a long time to be fed through a tube, my parents had to pay a medical fee as compensation. I felt deeply humiliated, and our friend circle was in chaos. There were people calling Willow shameless, and others saying I had ruined her, that I was being too cunning in my actions. Amid all the conflicting opinions, I lay in my hospital bed, deleting messages from all sorts of people, while pondering why Willow had to push things to such a point, where neither of us could back down. Was it stubbornness, guilt, or was she retaliating for the humiliation I made her feel when she tried so hard to get me back? I couldn't figure it out, but maybe, for her, only by making things so broken, so irreversible, did she feel like there was no turning back, no regrets. The door to my room opened, and it was Anna. She asked, "What are you going to do now?" I replied, "I need to find a place to stay." I spoke with difficulty. Willow had told them to give her a month to move out. She said, "I have an empty apartment, and you know how busy I am with work." I looked at Anna in front of me. I hadn't expected her to offer help at this moment. Anna graduated from medical school. I met her when she was Willow's best friend. She was always impartial to both of us. She even knew that I didn't like coriander. Whenever she saw Makoto causing trouble, she'd immediately scold him and warn Willow that this kind of ambiguity was dangerous. I had wanted to thank her many times, but, due to the awkwardness of being opposite sex, I always kept silent. Now, seeing myself so beaten and defeated, I felt no inhibition in speaking up. "Don't you think I went too far?" She answered, "No, I think it was the right thing to do." Anna was serious as always. She was blunt, never one to hold back. She continued, "I should have told you earlier, but I've cut ties with Willow." I forced a smile, though it hurt. I agreed to Anna's suggestion and went to her apartment. What I didn't expect was that her apartment was right across the hall. Even though the fight forced me to rest for 2 months, I felt no regret. In fact, I felt like I had been reborn. However, the side effects of the steel pins and anesthesia were starting to show. After taking the anti-inflammatory meds, I felt groggy. My forehead felt cool, as if someone was taking care of me. At first, I thought it was my mom, who had insisted on staying with me, but when I woke up again, I smelled the aroma of pig's trotters soup from the kitchen. My body hurt less than before. I heard birds chirping outside the window and picked up my phone. Dozens of messages and missed calls. Some were from colleagues, some from friends, and of course, some were from people who were just watching the drama unfold. Someone had sent me a screenshot of Willow's social media, showing her applying medicine to Makoto. It said, "You are my supreme treasure." Ha! No wonder when I once asked her to watch a classic movie together, she immediately turned me down. It wasn't that she didn't want to, it was that I wasn't worthy. I posted on my own social media, "Don't send me any more messages about this person, or don't blame me when I cut ties." I threw the covers off and tidied myself up. I saw Anna in the kitchen, focused on the soup. When she saw me, she said, "Your mom made it." She went out to buy some groceries. She asked me to make sure you drink it while it's hot after you wake up. She handed me a bowl. Just as I was about to reach for it, the pain from my injuries made me wince and break into a slight grimace. Anna huffed and said, "Stop being so careless. Let me feed you." With the gentlest of movements, she helped me into a recliner and adjusted the pillows for me. She said, "Don't misunderstand. We have this kind of clinical training." I watched her pour the soup into a bowl and let it cool for a while. She tested the temperature with her lips, then fed me spoonful after spoonful. It was the first time I'd been fed by a girl, and it made my heart feel warm and a little bittersweet. Willow had never treated me this way. Afterward, when she wiped my mouth, for some inexplicable reason, our eyes met, and we froze for a moment. My heart skipped a beat. I thought to myself, "George, you animal. How could you be thinking such things at a time like this?" At that moment, my mom entered the room, breaking the silence. "Son, are you feeling better?" Anna immediately stood up, shyly running out of the room. I felt a warmth spread through me. Perhaps in life, you'll meet two people, one who dazzles you, and another who gently warms your years. Chapter 13. My mom had tidied everything up, but she was having trouble with one thing: how to take care of my cat, Kaisen. It wasn't that she didn't like it, but Kaisen, this silly cat, had gotten used to jumping into my arms and snuggling whenever it saw me, but to my surprise, when it saw Anna, it obediently lay by her feet, rolling onto its back. Anna was also quite fond of it, saying, "Let's go, I'll give you a bath, little one." My mom helped me lie back down and said, "You've suffered these years." I froze for a moment, not knowing how to respond. "George, you gave Willow jewelry, and she just accepted it, but when she gave you a pair of sneakers as a gift, you were overjoyed. Back then, I thought you were too humble." A wave of guilt and shame surged inside me. I said, "Mom, don't say that," she continued. "Mom just hopes you understand, cherish the people around you while you still can." How could I not understand what she meant? But George could never be Makoto. Love that is obtained through manipulation is something I'd rather not have. I can love humbly, I can compromise for the person I love, but I won't lose myself in the process, fighting and competing. Love that is obtained through manipulation is something I'd rather not have. I lay back on the bed, planning to delete everything related to Willow, but then, I saw that she posted again on Weibo. It turned out she had gone to watch the re-release of A Chinese Odyssey. There was a picture of her holding hands with someone. And the caption read, "The first time I watched this movie was in the school cafeteria, and now, in the re-release version, the one beside me is still you." I glanced at the ticket I had once booked for us at the cinema. Suddenly, I remembered the movie review she had written for me. Does love have a reason, or not? Can you choose whether to go on the journey or not? Like the playful and charming Xixia, every frown and smile is filled with emotion. The one who walks on clouds, if your heart ever stirs for a moment, it must be the longing I once left in your heart. A flame of unspoken anger ignited inside me, but I held back my emotions and sent her a question mark. But when I saw the "unable to leave a comment" message pop up, I was stunned. To provoke me, she really had no bottom line. At that moment, Anna returned with Kaisen in her arms. She set it down and was about to leave. My mom quickly stopped her, saying, "Anna, why don't you stay for dinner?" Anna laughed and said, "I still have things to do, Mrs. George." My mom immediately turned to me and said, "George, tell Anna to stay. You're still friends, aren't you?" My mom glared at me with fiery eyes, and her unspoken words were clear. "How can you be so clueless?" I looked at Anna and whispered, "Do what Mom says." She chuckled and said, "All right, I'll just wipe Kaisen's paws first." Anna took her time cleaning Kaisen's paws and said, "I used to have a big orange cat just like her, but it ran away." I asked, "Did it have any distinguishing marks?" I felt a sudden suspicion. Anna casually replied, "Yes. It had a heart-shaped black spot under its armpit." I even joked with the shopkeeper, saying I hoped it would help me find my destined one. After saying that, she suddenly paused, looked at me with a knowing look, and then raised Kaisen's front paw. A heart-shaped birthmark was clearly visible. I stared at her in disbelief and said, "Kaisen is the cat I adopted." She squatted down, holding Kaisen tightly, and kept thanking me. My mom smiled and said, "It seems like it really was fate." My mom was laughing happily beside us. Chapter 14. In the following days, my broken bones healed well. Although Anna was busy, she always found time to keep me company. She also brought me some news about Willow. It seemed Willow was pregnant. Makoto had joined Lou's company and was already acting like a boss, offending many people. He wasn't exactly an outstanding student in university. His popularity had mostly come from his rough looks and unrefined tactics. I had always resented my parents for the compensation they paid. Why? I was simply defending myself. Yet because the other side was shameless, my parents had to cough up their hard-earned money to make peace for my future. After some careful thought, I remembered that Makoto had returned from his divorce looking pretty miserable. If he didn't have a problem with his shamelessness, he wouldn't have returned empty-handed. It seemed his divorce wasn't as simple as it appeared. So, while working on my physical recovery, I asked someone to look into the details of Makoto's divorce. Anna often came over to cook with my mom. I hadn't expected this cool and distant girl to be such a good cook, especially her yellow braised chicken, which was absolutely amazing. My mom subtly encouraged me to spend more time with Anna, but I hadn't fully recovered, and I felt like I wasn't good enough for such a wonderful girl. I kept being evasive, and through Willow, I came to a deeper understanding. Liking someone can be one-sided, but love requires mutual effort from both sides. If I were to pursue Anna now, it would feel too rushed. So, a month later, I brought Kaisen back home. Willow was acting pretty ridiculous, even managing to break the TV she bought, but I was already indifferent to it. What was strange, though, was that just like me, Kaisen showed no reaction when it saw Willow. People can suppress their emotions, but a cat shouldn't behave like that. Willow noticed it too, and stared at Kaisen in surprise. Animals can't talk, but sometimes, they understand more than people. Willow softly asked, "You're really disappointed in me, aren't you?" I had no idea what game she was trying to play this time. I shook my head and said, I used to avoid you, but now, I don't want anything that smells like you. I've already put the house up for sale. No need to say anything more. As I said this, I suddenly realized I felt no hesitation, no humility at all. Willow didn't get angry or storm off as I expected. Instead, she seemed like she wanted to say something but chose not to. She left without a word, and I could tell she had a lot on her mind, but I didn't want to be involved in her life anymore, even though I knew her parents were fighting because of Makoto. Her friends had almost all cut ties with her, and her work was starting to go downhill. It was like when the door closed. The click signaled the end between us, a repetition of the same painful cycle, her coming and going, back and forth, until it all became numb. And when my heart became numb to the point of breaking, everything felt calm, unaffected. She left, and I forgot. It was destined. Chapter 15. In the evening, Anna came over, took a quick glance around the house, and then handed me the rib, corn, and chicken feet soup. She opened her mouth and said, George, can you come with me to the hospital tomorrow? The hospital needs to consult a lawyer. Can you come help? Without thinking, I agreed. Sure. I didn't expect to run into Willow and Makoto here. When Willow saw me, there was a flash of surprise in her eyes, but she didn't speak. Makoto, however, asked proudly, Doctor, you told me last week to come for checkups every month and to take some x-rays. Is my wife pregnant? Is the baby healthy? Is the fetus stable? Then, looking at me, he deliberately asked, isn't this an old acquaintance? If this were me in the past, I would have been furious, but somehow, my heart had been patched up without me even realizing it, and it seemed that under Anna's gentle care, a layer of protection had formed that words could no longer easily provoke. I found myself smiling back in a surprisingly calm way, replying, yes, we're quite familiar. Congratulations on having a baby so soon. By the way, I've returned the woman I raised for 3 years, just as she was. Makoto had once relied on his shamelessness, using Willow to play good cop and bad cop with me, which left me frustrated and helpless. But now, I had grown a thick skin, as solid as a fortress. I used to think that the opposite of love was hate. Then I thought it was indifference, but now I realized it was forgetting. When I forgot everything from the past, I no longer had any qualms about dealing with Willow. Makoto shot me a murderous look before quickly putting on a smug expression. Of course, I'll send you an invitation. If it weren't for you being so spineless, Willow and I wouldn't be where we are today. I mocked. Yeah, just like worn-out shoes. Even if they've been soiled, washed and put out, they can still be called a limited edition. Just don't let them break. A broken shoe, no matter how limited, will only be discarded once it falls apart. Makoto was so angry that he finally stopped pretending, slamming his fist on the table. Who are you calling worn-out shoes? I looked at him with a half-smile. The reason I could laugh was because I had received the investigation report just yesterday. Makoto's divorce wasn't just because of an emotional breakdown. It was far worse. He had been gambling, cheating, and even involved in drugs while abroad. His ex-wife was already going through legal proceedings. He had essentially run back to escape the consequences. Willow finally spoke up, saying, all right, stop talking nonsense. There are other patients waiting. Makoto rolled his eyes in dissatisfaction but continued to fake a smile. But when Anna saw the report, she suddenly became serious and said, Willow, this is not good. The room fell silent, and then a thunderous slap rang out. Makoto slammed his hand on the table and shouted, what nonsense are you talking about? Anna wasn't scared. She said, Ito, what are you hiding from Willow? Are you really that unclear about it? She handed the report to Makoto. I glanced at it. Wow, it was a disease report. Makoto's expression was priceless. He didn't care about Willow being there and loudly declared, Anna, you're just making things up. I've known about this for a while. Sweating heavily, he hurriedly explained to Willow, Willow, I was infected abroad by accident. Believe me, I didn't pay attention to sterilization while traveling. Anna quietly looked at him and said, that's a joke. You're in the second stage, and you're telling me it was an accident. Are you trying to fool me? Willow, standing by, pointed at Makoto, unable to speak for a while. Eventually, she dropped her medical card and bag onto the floor in disgust. I was in shock. Originally, I just wanted to let go of everything and never see this couple again. But now, things had taken a sharp turn, and I realized Willow had really become a victim of betrayal. I was stunned to the core. I knew Willow was an incredibly proud woman, and such an enormous humiliation was impossible for her to bear. Indeed, I could see the fury in her eyes. She was trembling with anger, unable to speak, and Makoto, seeing this, continued to explain, I really didn't know. It was that woman who infected me. I had no idea she had the disease. It's her fault. It must be her. Makoto started babbling, clearly not knowing what to do next. He turned to grab Willow's hand and said, Willow, believe me, let's not have this child. Let's start over. I couldn't take it anymore. I broke the lie and said, Mr. Ito, I can get the details of your divorce case if you want. Should I print it out and show everyone? You'll be completely socially dead if that happens. Willow suddenly pulled her hand away from Makoto and shouted, You're lying. You've been scheming against me from the start, haven't you? You took advantage of me when I was drunk, and then you used my family and career to threaten me. How else could I have ended up in this ridiculous situation? After saying this, Willow, in a fit of rage, grabbed the surgical knife in front of Anna and rushed at Makoto. Chapter 16. The next second, Anna grabbed Willow and shouted at Makoto, Get out of here. Do you want to kill someone? Makoto hesitated, but Willow's anger was boiling over. She struggled desperately, and Anna slapped her across the face, glaring at her. You have no principles. You broke up, and now you've lost all dignity, and you're blaming others. I frowned ever so slightly. Willow collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. After that, Anna led us to the break room. Once inside, I said to Anna, Anna, can we talk alone for a moment? Anna furrowed her brows but nodded and stepped out. Once she was gone, Willow trembled and said, George, I was really wrong this time. I sighed, suddenly feeling how unfamiliar this woman had become to me. After a long pause, she spoke again. I'm sorry. This time, it was sincere, because in her eyes, I saw a heart that had turned to ash. I froze for a moment. No feeling. Really. Everything became clear to me when I realized I had deeply loved Willow but saw her lack of resolve. Choosing to withdraw without hesitation meant I had long since ceased to care about the consequences. Willow's actions after that were nothing but a way of stripping away any remaining dignity between us. Now, I really didn't need these 3 words, even if Willow owed me. So I asked in a calm tone, Why are you saying this now? She didn't expect such a cold response from me. She muttered, When I got together with Makoto, I initially thought I was just getting back at you. I did whatever I wanted, watch TV, drink milk tea, eat barbecue. My appetite was still the same, sometimes even eating more, but I didn't think about you. I just drank away my sorrows. My clothes were the same, never missing you, eating and playing as usual, sleeping and working. I couldn't help but smile and said, So, in other words, you're doing fine. To put it in poetic terms, I've seen the clouds, and they smile. I've drunk and sniffed the green plum. Her eyes suddenly reddened. No, that Saturday, Makoto and I went shopping for household items. When I picked up 3 bags, I suddenly realized the guy who would have eagerly helped me carry them, who couldn't bear to see me suffer, that silly, clumsy boy, was gone. Even though I pretended to stay cool, my body's memory still remained. She suddenly grabbed my hand and asked, Will you forgive me? The warmth in her palm was familiar, just like the familiar Willow I once knew. In that moment, I had waited for so long, but now I didn't want it anymore. I quickly pulled my hand away, but she grabbed it again. Just then, Anna walked in. Seeing the scene, she asked, What's going on? Getting back together? After saying that, she seemed a little awkward. After all, Anna and I hadn't acknowledged the relationship between us. She turned and left, taking advantage of the opening. I quickly pushed Willow away. When I saw Willow trying to get closer again, I shouted, Enough, Willow. Honestly, what happened with Makoto earlier could have ended in tragedy. But do you know why I didn't react? Do you want me to tell you why? Willow choked up and said, But now, I only have you left. I shook my head. I said, What's the hardest thing in this world? To pick a star with your bare hands. To love but not be loved in return. There are millions of people in the world, but it's still hard to meet someone like me. I never understood that saying before, but now I do. I couldn't get you before, and after this, you won't meet someone like me again. It's all part of the plan. I saw the light in Willow's eyes fade, gradually giving way to coldness, and soon only despair remained. I continued, Willow, I never looked back, and I won't. Not now, not ever. Willow's eyes were full of hopelessness. I stood up, and before leaving, I added, You can tell Makoto for me. He once said that broken mirrors could be mended, but I'll tell him now, when a broken mirror is mended, it's only a temporary fix. There's always a crack, which is just waiting for the next time it breaks completely. As I left, I never looked back. It was finally over. When I returned to Anna's place, she had a blank expression, and she seemed angry. When her work was finished, she looked up at me and asked, Do you still like Willow? I replied, No. She scoffed and said, Then why did you let her hold your hand? Why did you talk to her for so long? Just because she was deceived? Have you forgotten how she betrayed you? I didn't know how to respond. I found it strange that Anna, usually so calm, could be so unreasonable. But I also found it unexpectedly cute. Trying to tease her, I said, Well, don't I still not have a new girlfriend? Unexpectedly, this remark made Anna stand up in anger, her face turning bright red, and she shouted at me, You. After a while, she sat down, dejected, and said, Forget it. George, your BER is probably supposed to mean you're a fool, right? Then she walked out on her own. As she passed me, she said, I won't go to your house tomorrow. We both need some space. When I got home, I didn't eat. I sat on the bed and looked at the tulips on the balcony. I suddenly remembered how Willow and Anna had different attitudes toward flowers. Willow would go to a flower shop to buy ready-made bouquets, while Anna would carefully select them from the flower market. One would discard them when they lost their freshness. The other would nurture them as if they were her own children. It suddenly dawned on me. Love is different. If you like a flower, you'll pick it. If you love a flower, you'll water it. In that moment, I realized that Anna had fallen in love with me, but I still didn't have the courage to admit it. I didn't know how to confess to Anna tomorrow. In a daze, I called my mom. She answered and bluntly said, she won't see you, but she can still see Patience. Huh? You hopeless fool. Pursuing a woman means you have no shame. Yeah, that's right. You're so smart. So, I quickly found my medical record. I absent-mindedly flipped through it, and to my surprise, I discovered a big secret. During the time Anna took care of me, I had almost understood the heavenly book she had written. On the medical card, she had written 3 things during the 3 days she had stayed in the hospital room with me. The first day she wrote, when I first met you, you were like fireworks, and I was the ashes, needing a lifetime to clean the hearth, needing a lifetime to sweep the ashes. The second day, the 3 parts are not the 3 parts of flowing water and 7 parts of dust, but the 3 parts of the moonlight that belong to the world. The third day, the day I wanted to confess, you gave flowers to her instead. I'm not sad. I just want to silently watch you be happy. I froze for a moment, and then a sweet feeling rushed into my heart. She had quietly cared for me, unwavering and steady like the gentle rain nurturing everything, with actions that were slightly ambiguous but not over the line, and each one seemed to have a reasonable explanation. At that moment, I understood why I had to go tomorrow. It was a kind of longing, a kind of care that couldn't be avoided, a concern that led me to her side despite myself. I fiddled with my clothes and put on a pair of large green shorts with my suit. I intentionally timed it right to catch her after her shift. When I arrived, she didn't look up. I didn't say anything either. When Anna couldn't hold herself back and looked up, she noticed I was dressed like a peacock. Anna got angry immediately and asked, "Why are you dressed like this?" I asked, "What's wrong with it?" I glared at her. I just wanted to see if I still have any market value. I took off my suit, and underneath it was even more eye-catching, a shirt with a fake tie. She grabbed a blanket, wanting to cover me up. I pushed it away and pointed at the medical record book, asking, "What do these mean?" She refused to admit it and said, "It's just some medicine." I chuckled and said, "Medicine? Then how about you come with me to the pharmacy and get it?" Anna became flustered and said, "Can we talk about it after I finish work?" I didn't give her any breathing room and said, "Wait until you finish work. Didn't you say you weren't going back? If you step out of here today, don't even bother speaking." "George, aren't you going to see the doctor?" I replied. "Aren't I also your patient?" I propped my legs up casually and started chewing gum like a delinquent. "So, what does this mean?" Anna, probably never seeing me so assertive, turned into a good little girl. She said, "Do I really need to say it? Didn't I already write it down?" I answered, "I can't understand it." "Read it out loud." "Read it." I nodded. Then the little brat actually started reading aloud. By halfway through, I was blushing. I didn't expect the good little girl to read it so loudly. I quickly interrupted. "When did you start liking me?" She answered, "From the first time I saw you." I was speechless. "Then at that time, you called me a musclehead with a simple mind." She laughed and said, "I was the silly one. It was my slowness that led you and Willow to cross paths." "I'm sorry, I almost missed you." I tapped her nose and said, "They say people shouldn't miss 2 things in life, the last train home and someone who truly loves you." The train was you, and so was the person. "Right," Anna said. "Right." I locked the door of the clinic from the inside, and no matter what happened, I didn't care. Unable to hold back, I leaned in and kissed her. Epilogue. Willow ran into some trouble at work. After quitting her job, she decided to go abroad for treatment. Makoto, whom she sent to prison herself, faced some serious charges. He would be locked up for at least 10 years. Anna and I had met each other's families and already gotten our marriage certificate. One day, I received a package in the mail. Inside was a bank card. The package also contained the ring I had given Willow. The bank card had 200,000 on it. For a moment, I was stunned. I smiled and handed the card to Anna. Then I turned and threw the ring into the moat.